everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat Moonchild. I am a psychic, I am a medium, and I am also a Reiki master. I'm going to be doing a small 3-part series right now. They're all under the tips and tricks header. At least part 1 and 2 is, and the third part will be a vlog style video. The first part is going to be what to look for when receiving a reading and what kind of reading do I need. The second part is going to be different reading styles and what to choose for me to do personally when giving readings, and the third style will be the way that I read as a reader. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe, hit the bell notification for future videos so you never miss out on another video, and you can also find me at Moonchild Dreams, spelling found above me, on Facebook and on Instagram for additional content. So just kind of jumping right into the video, I've made this video literally 3 times now, and I only have to assume that it's because I didn't do it right, because I've never had this much trouble making a video, ever. That's not true. The chakra video gave me some agita, guys. It gave me some agita. But that video is done. I'm probably going to redo and re-upload that video at some point. But going back into it, there's kind of just 3 things I want to cover. First being, what is the difference between a psychic and a medium? The difference between a psychic and a medium is that mediums are clairaudient, in which they can hear, and a psychic is only clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairgustant, claircognizant, without necessarily having clairaudience. I know that that's a lot of clairs, guys, but the point being is a medium can hear spirits and talk to spirits, and a psychic cannot. However, the psychic reads otherwise does not include the ability to hear. That's why all mediums are psychic, because clairaudience, which is hearing, is a psychic ability, but all psychics are not mediums. That's where that adage comes from, and that's what it means. So when you're getting a reading, do you want to talk to spirits or not? Some mediums cannot do future and some can. That's where a psychic medium comes into play. A psychic medium does do future and also talks to spirits. Some straight mediums, and when I say that word straight, it means only. Straight mediums only do mediumship and they can't do future. I don't think that's very common, but it does occur occasionally, so that's something to be aware of. And then straight psychics tend to do only past, present, future, and that's also something to be aware of. So that's something to just kind of keep under your hat, or kind of keep in your mind, is what kind of reading style do I want? Do I want a psychic, or do I want a medium, or do I want both? The second thing you want to kind of keep in mind is tools versus no tools. That's a big subject. People who do straight readings with no tools tend to be mediums. Most psychics that I've seen tend to use some variation of tool, whereas a lot of mediums don't use tools. When I'm doing readings as a medium, tools get in my way because it distracts me from what I'm hearing, because tools aid in what I'm seeing. So if I'm using a tool like tarot or oracle cards or anything else, runes for example, I'm going to be paying attention to what I'm seeing. I'm not going to be paying attention to what I'm feeling and hearing, which is where a lot more of the mediumship comes in. So it's really, really important that I'm paying attention to what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling when I'm doing a mediumship style reading. And when I'm doing that, I'm doing just a straight reading. If I'm doing a psychic reading, I tend to use a tool like tarot or like an oracle deck, because those things help aid me in creating a linear line of energy to future, so I can see the outcome or the play out of possibility a lot easier and better. The other thing to understand is when somebody's using tools, a lot of people have tool preferences like no tarot cards, no astrology, no numerology. Understand that those are the tools that make the reader the best that they are. And to ask them to read you without those tools is kind of like asking a chef not to use their favorite knife. They can use other knives, probably, I would hope, because they're a chef. Just like a lot of other psychics can use multiple different tools, but if that is their tool of choice, whether it be astrology, numerology, tarot, oracle, runes, whatever the case may be, it might be better for you to just pick someone else if you're going to ask them not to use their tool of choice, because that's kind of going against their flow, and flow as a reader is the most important thing you can have as a reader in order to give you the best reading you can possibly have, is to have a good flow and a good channel. If you try to control the style of the reading, you're not going to have a good reading. I've never given a successful reading ever, and hardly any readers I've ever met that's had somebody try to dictate the way they should read have had successful readings. Go somewhere else, go with the path of least resistance, go with the flow, because it's just going to be better that way. If you are opposed to whatever tool for whatever reason, just go elsewhere. It's going to be easier for everyone and less stressful for everyone for you to pick another reader. The other thing is that some readers, again, will get blocked to you for multiple different reasons. Maybe they can't give you what you need that day. Maybe they cannot provide you with the messages that you need that day. Maybe they're not the right person for you. Maybe you're in the middle of a life lesson that you're not supposed to get guidance on. That does happen, truthfully. Maybe you're scared, nervous, stressed, tired, sick, agitated, overwhelmed, frustrated, your mind's in too many different places. It's okay. Sometimes you get blocked during a reading. It doesn't mean you did something wrong, which always kind of breaks my heart. It's not about doing something wrong when you're blocked from getting a reading. Some people do feel like they did something inappropriate or bad. That's not the case. The best way to go into a reading is open-minded but skeptical. It's a great way to enter a reading, but don't have preconceived notions of what that reading should be, how it should be, that they should read like a famous person that you saw on TV, because it's not going to happen, especially with a psychic. Most psychics on TV are mediums. Those are your very, very popular that I've been introduced to or that I'm aware of. As you know, I don't really watch a lot of television, but from what I've heard, they're primarily mediums, not psychics. So you're not going to really get the same stylization as I explained earlier, because a medium is a medium and a psychic is a psychic, and they're going to read very, very different ways. An empath is going to read very, very different than somebody who has claircognizance, and I know you don't understand what that means necessarily, but that is something to know. You may really, really like abstract art, but not like surrealism. That doesn't mean surrealism is bad, that just means you prefer abstract art. So go with the familiar, maybe, or go with what you know at first, but be open to new experiences too. If you have a preference, it's one thing. If you are opposed to or do not condone certain stylizations of reading, that's another thing entirely. If you do not condone a certain style of reading, then just don't do that reading, period. It's not going to work out. It's not going to go well. You're not going to like the experience because you've already got it in your head, and that's not a bad thing. That just means, again, save yourself, your money, your time, and your aggravation, and don't get that style of reading. That's all that comes down to. Another thing, oh, my brain's going into shell readings. I don't know why my brain went there. Another thing that I kind of want to cover is that sometimes people will say things in readings that are not necessarily kosher. Now, a lot of people, this is something else I kind of wanted to cover, a lot of people are afraid of what they're going to hear in a reading, which is why they don't like getting readings, or why they're scared to get a reading, is because they're afraid they're going to hear something bad. All I can say is life has ups and downs. Life has its ups and downs, and life will happen one way or another. I prefer to be told the bad things. It's actually saved my life before. In the second video I shot, I actually went through the whole story, but I think I'm going to skip the story this time. It feels a little bit personal, but it did save my life. Readings have saved my life before. I am not exaggerating. I'm not lying. It was in conjunction with a car. And all I'm really going to say is I had 3 friends call me that month begging me not to drive my car, and my tire rod had popped out of my tire. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but if they had not called me, I probably would not have been nearly as attentive as I was. And I probably would have been driving too fast as a young person on a road, on a highway. That's all I'm going to say. It did save me. It saved my life and the lives of others. And I am so grateful that people have this gift. Not just because I do it professionally, but because it's changed my life. And so when people get scared of hearing bad stuff, I tend to kind of tell them that story because, you know, you may not want to hear that that bad thing is going to happen, but it'll help you prepare. Sometimes there's some things you can't avoid in life, and then there's some things that are avoidable. And sometimes there's no telling which is which in a reading, and that's something you also have to know, is that readings are just a roadmap. They're not absolute, they're not final, and future is probability, choice, and possibility. There's nothing that is an absolute. So that's something else that you also want to be aware of in readings, is that a good reader will try to guide you through those ups and downs very, very well. And a good reader will not talk about certain things like your family member's gonna die. I'm not trying to laugh. It's sad and it's ridiculous, and I don't know why some readers do that. I find it so incredibly sad and so incredibly disrespectful to individuals. There's some situations where that person's on their last leg, they're very, very old, you know it's gonna happen, and it comes up in a reading. That's a different story. But if it's something else, I don't see why a reader should say it. Now, you may want to hear it. Some people have actually said if we see something like that, we should let them know. I still won't, because it's not my business. I feel like that's a sacred thing between a higher power and the soul that is leaving this world. Death is a very, very sacred passage and a very, very sacred experience. And I know that sounds funny to say, but it is. It's like birth. It's the opposite of birth. It's coming into this world and leaving this world as a soul. And there's no set in stone necessarily as a person getting a reading that this is absolutely going to happen. There were things I was so sure was going to happen, and Spirit proved me wrong. I was so sure it was going to happen at this time frame, for example, but it didn't happen then. I was so sure, and it happened later, and that's humility. That's divinity. We are not the ones that are of the divine. We connect with divine, we channel divine, and we channel spirit messages, but we're human. That's why we're called a vessel. That's why we're called a tool, or again, a medium. What does that mean? A medium is a middle ground between one place and another. It's the middle. We're the medium between here and there. So it's really, really important that you're also aware of time frame and time being lucid, not being solid. Time is fluid. Even quantum physics says that. Time as we perceive it chronologically going forward is false. That is not true. So when a reader reads, we're in that flow of time, and time is so translatable so many different ways and is so fluid, and we get the situation accurate. It happens exactly the way we say, but then the time frame is off, or the timing is right, but it didn't happen exactly the way we said. So that's something else to be aware of. Using myself as an example, when I read myself, I get a gist of a big thing, gist of a change, for example. And I knew a big change was coming for me in July, and I had a life-changing experience at the end of June. So right at the end of June, like 3 days before the end of June, life-changing experience. So I knew it was going to happen. I just did not know what it was going to be, exactly when, or exactly how. And it's important we sometimes don't get all the details, because that's the divine mystery of it all. There's supposed to be some mystery. When I know exactly everything that will happen, which has happened to me before, how it's going to happen, how it's going to play out, but not necessarily the exact outcome, but I know the stages getting there, and I knew every step along the way. I tried to stop it, but it was like trying to stop a train in motion. You know, there was no stopping it, because you can't change people, you can't change their choices, you can't change who they are or how they are. And I was trying to change that series of events and in conjunction with other people, and it doesn't work like that. Give myself a pat on the head, you know, all those things I've learned now. If only I knew then, you know. Youth is wasted on the young, as they say. Look at me showing my age. But I digress. You know, it's all a learning experience, and psychic readings are meant to be a guide or a roadmap, not an absolute. Don't take it as biblical truths. Keep it under your hat. It's meant to be a guide point, and we can only give as much as we can. We can't give you the totality of it all. There's just too much information. You know, not only that, we have to download that information. So if we're a computer downloading messages from spirit, and we're downloading those messages because we have a human brain, that's the thing. We're not some mystical, magical creatures or beings that exist outside in Hogwarts. We don't live in Hogwarts. We live down the road from you. You have to go to the grocery store too. I need to buy me some tomatoes, you know. Not to be funny, but to be real here. We have our brains and our perceptions and our thoughts and our feelings and all that, and then we're receiving information about what you're going through and that energy and that feeling, because that is a physical feeling and a physical experience. Mediumship and psychic ability is a very physical experience. And that's all coming through to us, replacing all that information, and we have to give you that information, and then we have to get rid of it and forget, because that's going into our brain. So it's almost like someone's plugging us into a server. If we were a computer on the internet, if that makes any sense whatsoever, it's like being plugged in onto a server, onto a web of information, and then we are unplugged. That's exactly what it's like. I don't know how else to describe it. That's been the best way I've been able to describe it to people. And we're downloading that information from the web, but we only have so much memory space in our computer. And so that file has got to get deleted once we're unplugged from that web. We can't keep that. So readers do forget their readings. We don't remember you. And I'm sorry. I'm sure some of my students watch my channel. I am not forgetting you because I don't care. I'm forgetting you because I can't keep all that information, all the energy, all the programming, all the thoughts and feelings and emotions that come with that experience of reading to you. I can't keep that in my being. I have to put it back into the server, into the file where it belongs, because that's that energy. I took that energy out, read the energy, and put that energy back. That file has to go back to where it belongs. So personal apology to people that I forget. That's something else you want to know as a person receiving a reading, is that your reader will forget you. Probably, most likely. You know? And as always, don't forget, good readers will have a refund policy. Ask that refund policy. Ask questions, interact with them. Listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. Does it feel right? Does it feel wrong? Read reviews about that individual. Make sure you're protecting yourself, your energy from con artists and people like that, because I don't want you to have a bad experience. I don't. And professional psychics are compassionate. Sometimes they're very real. Sometimes they're very blunt and very straightforward and very honest, and sometimes people love that, and I respect that, but sometimes they are very real. I will tell you what, they will not play around, but sometimes that's what we need. I know I'm the person that needs a kick in the butt sometimes. Evan knows I've needed it quite a bit, and I've gotten it from readers, and it's been very effective. So what we all need from readers is different. Some readers are very gentle, understanding, don't like to say anything bad, and are very compassionate. And some readers are very down to earth, and they're like that big sister that will protect you and beat up all the boys, but will give you a smack upside the head and say you're not being your best self right now, are you? Just being PG there, but you know what I mean. And that's just some stuff to keep in mind. Let me see if there's anything else that I need to talk about. Keep your energy protected in readings. 2, like I said, it is good to be open but skeptical, but white light yourself. Say a prayer before you go in to your reading, that you receive the messages that you need to receive, that you are protected by your angels, by your loved ones. Put out your intention before you go into a reading so you can get the reading that you're looking for. Okay, guys? Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you all. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.